Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the latest leaked Brexit report, sort of, from the government, which notes that local disaster planning cannot possibly cope with the self-inflicted disaster of a no-deal Brexit at the end of this year, after being knackered by, amongst other things, the coronavirus pandemic. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, first of all, I have to say I'm a little bit surprised that such a Brexit impact report would even exist to be leaked. Because after all, the government have been careful not to authorise any reports into Brexit at all. They don't want any impact reports into it. Theresa May's government did, and they tried to keep them secret, but the juicy ones were eventually leaked so that we could see just how disastrous a hard Brexit would be on every level. Boris Johnson didn't want to fall into that trap. Dominic Cummings was very careful to make sure that no minister authorised any reports looking at the impact of any form of Brexit. For example, the Treasury has carried out economic forecasts based on different outcomes from the coronavirus pandemic. Well, that's very sensible. Absolutely, they should do that. But not on any Brexit outcomes. Bit odd, isn't it? Michael Gove said he didn't think such forecasts were terribly accurate when he was asked about it. But if they're not accurate for Brexit, which is controlled carefully by the government he's part of, remember all those cards he's holding? Then how could it be accurate for something as genuinely difficult to predict as the worst pandemic in a century? Of course, it's nonsense. The reason is they don't want a report which says just how badly any form of Brexit will knacker us economically. They certainly don't want a report that shows the different forms of Brexit and says, oh, by the way, the one the government's going for is the worst of all. And they know they can't keep it secret. They'll try, but they can't because some bugger will leak it, just like all the others have done. So yeah, came as something of a surprise to me that such a report actually existed, under Johnson's government at any rate. But the reasoning is that it's not really a Brexit report. It's a COVID-19 report that perhaps carelessly Dominic Cummings forgot to tell the authors to ignore Brexit implications and under no circumstances consider them, because consider them they did. Essentially, the report says that failing to seek an extension to the Brexit transition period will mean that a local emergency teams who are already on their arse over COVID will be completely overwhelmed. No extension threatens to compound COVID-19 with a second UK societal-wide economic and social chronic threat, it says. That's its words. The report noted the exhausting nature of repeated floods, Novichok, Brexit preparations in general, which is sort of going nowhere, as well as the mother of them all, coronavirus. The last thing we need, it says, is a no-deal Brexit. And don't forget that this is something that we have the capacity to defer until we've caught our breath. The report itself says this isn't about stopping Brexit. I mean, I would love to do that, but the report itself says this isn't about stopping it. This is about saying we can't do it now, do it in a couple of years. The other threats cited would have happened regardless of government, and there may still be other emergencies coming. Who the hell thinks this? This isn't even the only emergency we've got this year. Remember, we had the floods. Do you remember those? Because that's largely been forgotten, apart from the people still impacted by them because of the all-consuming nature of coronavirus. But all of those threats would happen regardless of the government. They may not be arsed up as much as this government. But this one, the no-deal Brexit, is entirely at the discretion of our elected clowns. Because the rhetoric from the government is as follows. The EU have 2 weeks to start behaving themselves, or we're going to start ramping up preparations for a no-deal Brexit. We'll see how they like that. Oh yes, says the report. I don't think so, because we do not have the capacity to do so. We're knackered, utterly shagged out. And I'll tell you another thing I found odd about this report. The reports of this report, more specifically, because I've not got that. I've got the abridged version. Not only does this report exist, and was able to consider Brexit implications. That's for me surprising. It even used the word Brexit. Some of the quotes from the report used the term Brexit. Now this is a word that was banned by Boris Johnson. I thought that was very interesting and perhaps shows you just how desperate the civil service are to wake people up to the cliff edge that many seem to have forgotten that we're racing towards still. Because it's almost like, you know, a lot of people, particularly Brexit supporters, think that we went off that cliff edge on January the 31st. And actually we must have just soared over it like chitty chitty bang bang because it didn't seem to hurt. No, the cliff edge wasn't about membership, but access to the EU. We still have that. January 2021 is when our lunatic clowns in chief have determined that we exit that. Not January 2020. Didn't exit anything other than changed our passports. And another thing that the report highlights is just how much Brexit overshadows everything. Everything. This report was about COVID-19. Momentous event. Momentous. And it still places prominence on Brexit. You know, how well or how poorly we deal with COVID-19 is going to be largely determined by our attitude towards Brexit. But anyway, there it is. Get ready for local services to completely melt down in 2021 if it somehow doesn't happen in 2020. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.